Welcome to Simplify to Scale, a show dedicated to helping you scale a high impact and high profit business that you love without all of the complexity and chaos that can keep you trapped in the day to day. I'm your host, Krista Grasso, and with decades of scaling experience, I know what actually works and what's just hype. So if you are done with all of the one-size-fits-all scaling advice and all of the overnight success promises, and instead you want proven practical strategies that will help you simplify operations, elevate your leadership, amplify profits, and scale sustainably, let's dive in and get started. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Simplify to Scale show. Today, we're going to be talking about your offers, especially for those of you who do have a service-based business, and how you want to be thinking about them, how you want to be packaging them, and how you want to be positioning them as we look forward to the end of this year and going into next year. There's some really important shifts in what's working, and more importantly, what I see that's going to continue to be working going into the new year and probably going forward for quite a bit now, right? We tend to have cycles in business where certain things work for a period of time, then the market gets over it, kind of burns out on it, gets a little tired of seeing the same things in the same way, and there ends up being a pivot. Then the market shifts towards a different way of doing things. And again, the cycle repeats. And if you've been in business long enough, you will notice that those cycles just keep repeating. So what worked yesterday will all of a sudden work in the future. And what works today won't work tomorrow. And so it's just this constant cycle. But there are some really distinct patterns that I'm seeing that have started working now. Now, you may be already doing these in your business. If you are in a place where your business is growing right now, where you're having good success, you'll probably recognize some of these in what you're doing. If you're in a place where you're still trying to find your footing because the things that you were doing stopped working and you've yet to find the right ingredients to get it to work in a more predictable, consistent way, today's episode will really help. And either way, these are things that you want to be thinking about and planning for as you're looking towards next year and really how you want to structure and deliver your services going into the future. So first things first, I like to think of 4 different distinct types of offers that we have in our business. Again, I'm speaking primarily to service-based businesses here. You can extract this out if you have a different type of business model. But the core offer, the thing that we do, the main thing that we're known for is our signature offer. It's what I call your SSO. I've talked about that quite a bit on prior episodes, your scalable signature offer. But this is the core number one thing that you do that people tend to refer business to you for and that you tend to talk about the most often. Doesn't mean you might not have multiple services or multiple offers in the business, but this is the signature offer, right? In Lean Out Method, this is our Simplify to Scale program. In Strategic Ops Institute, this is our certifications. So what is that signature offer for you? Now, this is the one that maybe you've been selling it for years. Maybe you've been delivering it successfully for years. And maybe you're finding that people are either being slower to say yes, they're not saying yes at all. They might be ghosting. They might not even be inquiring in the same way that they used to. You might be having slower lead flow into it, slower referrals into it, or you might just be seeing lower conversion rates or slower to say yes conversion rates. Well, that's because buying patterns have shifted, buying cycles have elongated. As we've talked about on prior episodes, people are much less trusting and people are much more discerning with their spending and with who they're investing in. Makes sense. It fits kind of the times that we are in. It fits the, excessive noise that there is online, where with the help of their friend AI and ChatGPT, people are able to sound really seasoned, really experienced, come up with really fantastic testimonials. Everyone has this beautiful picture of what they are and what they do and the type of results that they can get. But not everyone actually has the depth or the expertise to be able to back it up, and businesses have been burned. And as a result of the shiny package that underwhelms and underdelivers behind the scenes, even those of you who are extremely seasoned at what you do, who have a great depth of experience and are highly skilled, people are less trusting of that, not because of you or anything you're doing, but because of just the experience that they're having overall in the market. And so those are some of the things that I'm seeing that are influencing shifts in how people buy or even stick with your signature offer. Now, there are things that frequently need to shift with your signature offer. in how it's packaged, how it's priced, how it's positioned, or even in how you plan to launch it and sell it. But that being said, the most significant shift that I see is with one of the other types of offers. And that is what I call your gateway offer. Your gateway offer is typically one of the first things that someone buys, and it is the thing that naturally leads into your signature offer. So I'll give an example from my business and lean out method and from what I teach people to do inside my certification programs. One of the things that I've done for many, many years now is an assessment as the first step in working with most businesses. Now, it is something that you can buy as a standalone service, and it gives a tremendous amount of value on its own. But it's something that if someone goes on to have my team and I go in and actually implement and take action on the things that are found in that assessment, or if I come in as more of a strategic advisor and guide someone's team to take action on the things that are found in the assessment, I actually credit the cost of the assessment towards the beginning of that work. And I love offers like that. To me, that has been the gateway offer that has worked incredibly well for me. It's the gateway offer I recommend most other people do, which is some kind of diagnostic or some kind of assessment that provides value in and of itself. So by going in, by working with a business, by giving them clarity in a place where they may have lacked clarity, maybe nothing is working for them, or they know that they are bleeding profit margin, but they aren't quite sure how or why, or they know that they're working way too much and that there's got to be a different way of working, or they know that their team isn't designed in the right way and they aren't quite sure why, right? There's all of these different things that a business might inherently know isn't working, but they don't necessarily have the clarity on what to actually do or what will make it work. And so if you can do some kind of assessment or diagnostic or audit or something along those lines that helps them gain that clarity, that ends up being really valuable to the business. And there's a percentage of businesses that will happily pay for that and then go off and take action on whatever recommendations you give them. However, most businesses, the reality is once they have that clarity and they can see not only what's standing in their way, but also what it looks like on the other side of that, when they can get back more time, when they can get back more profit, when they can fill the gap in their team, when they can do whatever that big bottleneck or that big thing is that's standing in their way, they see the potential on the other side of it. They see the scale or the growth or the freedom or whatever it is that they aspire to on the other side of that. And they frequently do not have the time, the expertise, the patience, any of the things to do it themselves. So it naturally leads into them wanting to partner with you to do that. And so, again, this has worked brilliantly for me over the past several years in my business. It's why it's what I teach others to do. I actually give them my assessment. They have full access to my assessment. It's where I recommend they start with most businesses. And so when someone gets certified and licensed to use my frameworks, they use that as their starter offer, which is what I call the gateway offer. And what I love about that and what I think works really well about gateway offers and why I wanted to talk about that is this is what I think you want in your business. There are a lot of different types of gateway offers. It does not need to be an assessment, does not need to be an audit or a diagnostic, but I love those for service-based businesses because it's a great way for someone to get to know you, to experience your work, to see some kind of quick win. Even if that quick win is more clarity based versus something being done based, that's incredibly valuable for somebody who is stuck, who now all of a sudden can see very clearly with confidence how to get unstuck. And so I love that, but there's a lot of different variations of gateway offers. But the key is the gateway offer is not something that is like a throwaway. You're just trying to have someone buy something that wasn't ready for your signature offer. This is the natural first step that you'd probably do anyway inside of your signature offer, but you're taking a piece of that and breaking it off as standalone value. And what that does is it de-risks someone's purchase. It becomes something at a price point that's more accessible. It provides a clear, quicker piece of value to them instead of what is probably a much longer term engagement in the services that you do. And so it ends up making it really simple for them to say yes. It becomes almost a no brainer for them to say yes because they feel like they don't have anything to lose. They're going to leave with clarity around something or a problem solved, something quick, something simple. I recommend it's under 30 days that you get them that result. Even better if you can do it sooner. And so it becomes a no brainer, easy way for them to say, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm curious. I think I want to work with this person. I like what they have to say. Don't know that I'm fully there yet. Don't know that I'm ready to make the big time commitment or the big financial commitment. I kind of trust them, but I've been burned before. So I want to make sure. I want to make sure that my instincts aren't wrong and that they really are trustworthy. I want to make sure that even though they have all of these great results and all of these great testimonials showing that it'll actually work for me in my business, in my specific situation, right? All those questions and objections that people have, it gives a way for them to work through them. It gives a way for them to build that know, like, and trust with you on a really deep level instead of on a surface level because they've experienced what it's like to work with you or with your team. They've experienced what it's like when you make a promise and you actually deliver on it. So it builds that trust and that willingness to say yes to your signature offer. And so I think that it's absolutely critical today to have a gateway offer. In the past, especially when you had business coming in through referrals, a lot of times you used to be able to go straight from referral to signature offer. Someone would refer your service, you'd have a conversation with someone, you'd send them over a proposal, or you'd point them to the page where they could go ahead and sign up. And things were relatively quick, relatively simple. I've never loved that approach, even though I'm a big fan of not extending buying cycles. I like personally the assessment and the diagnostic upfront too, because I tend to do really deep work with clients. I really get in there as I see myself as a partner in their business and I work super closely with them to make sure that they're getting scalable results and that they're achieving the transformation that they want. And so it gives me an opportunity also to see if someone's a fit. And I have sometimes done that assessment, given someone their results and wish them luck and not invited them to continue working together because I realized throughout that process it would have been a bit of a nightmare for us to work together. So I've always loved doing the gateway offer. But that being said, a lot of people have gone primarily from referral straight into service. And that's great, right? Straight into signature offer. Today, you really do need a gateway offer. And what I'm finding that's a little bit different from even if you've done this historically is sometimes you need an offer, you need like a second gateway offer before someone's able to move into your signature offer. So, for example, if you start with an assessment like I do, it's $1,000, right? A 997 price point, really accessible. So you start there. And then let's say you move into a service that's a $5,000 a month service or a $10,000 a month service or even a $2,500 a month service, whatever it ends up being. For some people, that's still too big of a jump. And what you might need to do coming out of the assessment is a secondary gateway offer that again solves one particular problem or gives them one particular piece of really meaty, meaningful value. And so it might look like a 30-day sprint that you do with them. And in this 30-day sprint, it is actually the same experience they're going to get when they sign on for your services. It's just a really focused, clear outcome based piece of the overall service. It's like the first step. And again, all you're doing with these things, you are not creating something new. You are doing something you were probably always going to do in your service anyway. You are just carving it out as a standalone piece that they could buy independently because you know it is naturally going to upsell into the thing that you're trying to sell. And so you might need to do a 30-day or even a 90-day project. You don't want it to be longer than 90 days. You want it to be something that's more quick win based where they can start to really see that measurable value. But you want to start with your first gateway offer, which might be assessment audit. If you can go straight into your signature offer, fantastic. Depending on the price point and the commitment and the duration of that signature offer will influence if you might need to put another gateway offer in between. And again, not a big fan of extending the buying journey. I like to get right into things as quickly as possible. But in today's market in particular, where people are less trusting and more discerning, I find that this is the path that is working really well. So what that would look like in practice, you may start with your gateway offer of an assessment. You may immediately go into recommending your signature offer, but you should have that other gateway offer in your back pocket if they're not ready to commit. They're like, I mean, this is great and I could definitely see the path, but I need to think about it. I'm not quite sure right now that I want to commit to 6 months or 12 months of 2,500 a month or, something. And you say, listen, why don't we do this? One of the number one things that we identified in the assessment is that you really could use support with this. If you do this one piece, within this one piece, here's what you're going to get and here's what you're going to see. Ideally, that one piece unlocks more time, more money. But what if we start there? What we can do is we can just do a 30-day sprint. We can laser focus in on this. Within 30 days, we'll be able to ABC. You will see these benefits. And from there, we could then look at moving into the ongoing service. Does that sound like a good place to start for you? If you do that, the majority of people say yes because they don't have to make the big commitment, but they can make a next level kind of small commitment that takes them closer to the result that they want. And then after that, all throughout that 30 days, if you're doing a 30-day sprint, you should be seeding with them what's next, what it looks like when you move into the signature offer. You should be treating it as an assumption that they are moving into the signature offer in the way that you speak and the way that you position things. And when you do that, it very naturally transitions into the signature offer. It's like, okay, now that we've got this done, or as you're in the middle of it, now that we're starting to see some progress here, here's what we're going to see over the next couple weeks. But what we really want to be focused on next is this. Really, really important that the next thing that we do is this, and here's why. When we do this, you're going to get this benefit, which is going to be amazing, but it's going to highlight for you this in the business. We want to get ahead of that. You're not going to want to delay. You're going to want to move right into that. What I recommend is when we finish this here, we jump right into this, and you just kind of keep paving that picture of what it's going to look like. And if you are really good about meeting your commitments, you do what you say you're going to do. You do it when you say you're going to do it. You communicate well. You continue to nurture that relationship with them. You don't just like disappear and come back and hand something to them. You have ongoing communication, so you're top of mind. And they're like, wow, okay, they really know what they're doing. I can trust them. When they say they're going to do something, they do it. They do a great job. I'm seeing the benefits that they promised. It becomes a no-brainer for them to continue working with you because it takes the risk out of the equation. You've built trust. You've gotten over the discernment barrier. And at that point, it becomes a natural extension. So that is what I'm seeing work really, really well. But I've only talked about two types of offers. So I've talked about your signature offer. I've talked about your gateway offer, but there are two others. And so one of them where I see a lot of businesses leave money on the table is they don't have expansion offers. So expansion offers to me is a way to add something that deepens value on top of your signature offer. So let's say, for example, that you know that the thing that people want more than anything in your services is one-on-one time. They want one-on-one time with you, or maybe one-on-one time with someone from your team. And that is super important to them. So you could include that one-on-one time in the signature offer itself. And when you do so, you're going to have to charge a certain price that is a much higher premium than you would without that one-on-one time. Or maybe there's always one-on-one time, but it's the frequency of it. Maybe you would normally do it quarterly, but you know that people would really benefit from it being monthly or biweekly or something like that. So what you could always do is have an expansion offer that adds that in instead of it being a part of your signature offer. Makes your signature offer pricing more accessible, but you can have something that is an add-on that ends up really expanding and enhancing the value that they're going to get out of it. Something that I do is VIP days. So I love, love, love a VIP day. I think it is one of the best ways to start a client engagement. You have that full focus day to deep dive into their vision, to deep dive into their current state, and to build the bridge between what they have today and where they want to go. It's something that we can do together over time, but if we're able to do that at the start of an engagement, we actually get there a whole lot quicker. And they are much more bought in and they build that know, like, and trust with me on a much deeper basis because we've been able to spend so much time together and really dig into what they want, what their biggest fears are, what's getting in the way, what's frustrating the ever loving life out of them, right? We go through all of that in this deep, intensive session, and all of a sudden it enhances their results. So that ends up being a really great expansion offer to put on top of the services. Our very best clients, the ones who get the best results, start with a VIP day. We don't include it in the core service because we know it can be really challenging for people to set aside a full day. Highly recommend that you do this. Here's what happens when you do. And it ends up adding on an additional amount. They've already committed to the service. And now it gets added on. Another one, something that we use a lot, is I will come in more in a strategic advisory fashion, and I will advise someone's existing team to go off and take action on what we do, right? I'm a scaling advisor, I'm an operations advisor. So it is very common for me to come in as the fractional right hand person to the founder, and they already have a team, which is great. And I will advise that team. And if sometimes we need to hire, I'll help with finding and hiring and building out the team. And that works really well. However, sometimes people either don't have a team or they don't have a good team where their team is at capacity and they don't want to take their team off of what they're working on to do the things that need to get done. Well, another great example of an expansion offer is adding on done for you services. And those done for you services could be done by you. It could be just simply someone that you partner with who you trust, and you're basically referring business to them. You can either have them come in under your umbrella, or you can have it be more of a straight referral and you get some kind of commission or something from them. But it provides a tremendous amount of value to the business that you're working with. And it also brings in additional revenue for you. So, expansion offers, this is more of an advanced strategy. If you don't yet have your gateway and signature working, forget I'm talking about the other two types of offers, get to them later. But I do think it is where a lot of people are leaving money on the table. And it's kind of like if you think about no matter what you do, there's always that person who wants the VIP tier. Like they want the elite premium, best of the best. There's like a small percentage that will always invest in the top tier. This is the expansion offer addresses that need for somebody. And again, not everybody's going to say yes. You might not even want everybody to say yes, right? I only have space for so many VIP days, so I don't offer it to everybody even. But that being said, if you do get a percentage of people that say yes, that is a whole lot more revenue and typically profit you're bringing into the business because you already have a client. So you're not marketing the thing. It ends up being much more pure profit on top of that. So expansion offers super valuable. And then the final one, the one that I think works so incredibly well, and that I do encourage you to work on as soon as you have your gateway and your signature offer dialed in, is the continuity offer. So, what happens when someone is done with your service? What happens when your work ends with them? Or what happens when your work in its current shape and form ends with them? So when I come in as a right hand with businesses, sometimes I'm with them for years. I've had one client I've been with since 2019, right? It's usually a multi-year experience with them because there's never a point in time that a founder doesn't need a solid right hand person. But that work shifts over the years, right? If you think about the natural evolution that a business goes through, there's periods where you're trying to grow or you're trying to transition into scale and growth is pure chaos. And you're trying to simplify things down so that you can scale and you have more stability in the business, right? There is a lot of strategy and a lot of decisioning and a lot of leadership and a lot of need at that point in the business. But now let's say you get the business to a point where things are really stable. The founder's not as involved in the day to day. The business is running really great. You've got a fantastic high performing team, right? This is what I do with businesses, and I get businesses to that point regularly. It's what I specialize in. So at that point in time, the need for me to be as involved is not usually at the same level, the same depth, the same pace. But if I exit out of the business, I frequently see things eventually unwind a little bit. It naturally happens. So, what do? You have a continuity offer that is maybe a lighter weight version of your core offer. That's what I do. It's like, okay, we've gotten through all the really freaking hard stuff. Now we're in more of a stable state. But in that stable state, the whole point of sustainability is that you want to be able to sustain your current level, which means you're always making these micro adjustments and you're doing that evolutionary change so you don't need to do the revolutionary change. So things don't go so sideways that you end up having to reinvent things. And so there's a benefit to keeping someone on. And so it's a lightweight, still engaged, still in key functions, but you're not overseeing as much massive change, right? And so what is that for you? What is the continuity? For some people, the continuity is just, oh, I just want to keep the client for as long as humanly possible, same rate, same everything. And that might be true. But I suspect that what you do with clients tends to have a natural tipping point where the hardest parts and the bulk of the work reaches a natural end. And then it becomes a little bit more routine. It becomes a little bit more steady state. Maybe not, but frequently there's something that you're doing that gets to that point. Well, do you have a continuity offer that makes sense for you to remain on in a certain capacity, but be able to reduce not only the amount of time that you're investing, but for them, the amount of financial commitment that they need to make? Because when all of a sudden they see that same price tag, but they don't feel like they need you as much, they're more likely to just end the engagement. Whereas if you naturally give them a continuity offer that says, listen, we've done so many incredible things together. At this point, I feel it's absolutely critical that I stay engaged because here's what I still see ahead of you, and here's what I want to make sure doesn't happen. But we both know I don't need to be as deeply involved anymore because your team's got this. You've got, whatever it looks like. You say, here's what I propose. At the end of this quarter, we transition to this instead. They see that as proactive from you. They see that as you looking out for their best interest. And it ends up being, again, a natural yes and a natural extension. I see this with people, for example, who build websites or who do a service like that that's more project based. Well, what could you do and add on as a continuity that has that? Is it every 90 days or every year you go in and you do some kind of updates so that everything stays current? Is it that you have some kind of maintenance package around it, right? There is always a continuity offer that you can do. I know for one of my clients, she does these big projects that happen where businesses will bring her in for something very specific. And they only need her really every few years to do this thing. They refresh this thing every few years. So, what I've been working with her on is doing more of a continuity offer of a yearly tune up. So she stays top of mind at the time that they have bought the one service and she's delivered it. They are pre buying the service for the next year. So it becomes an ongoing regular thing. So come year 3, they don't forget about her and go in a different direction. She's just naturally part of their annual cycle. It's something that's predictable. It's something that's needed. It doesn't feel as ad hoc because of the long duration in between. And so there's always, always a way to do a continuity, even if you have something that is more random or more one off, right? Can you do a quarterly check in, an annual check in, a monthly check in? Can you do a certain strategic advisory call on a particular thing? Or can you do some kind of maintenance or some kind of ongoing thing that provides value from a continuity perspective? Okay, so this ended up being more of a deep dive than I expected. I hope this was valuable, but these are the types of offers that I'm seeing work really, really well right now. Again, you're always going to have your signature offer. The thing that I would laser focus in on right now is your gateway offer. All roads should point to your gateway offer. And if you say, yeah, I already have one, I've had one forever, but people still aren't saying yes to my signature offer, then you might want to have another gateway in between that becomes highly value based, highly outcome based, very measurable, something that is that first step that you would take with them when they go ahead and book your service. And I recommend, if you can, have it be like a 30-day or less sprint, like just really try to get it be that quick win window for them. Something meaningful, something where they can get to know you, your team, your offers, the services that you provide, in the type of experience that they can truly expect when they sign on to work with you for a longer term engagement for your signature offer. Now, one of the other things to wrap around all of this is your positioning. Even if you have the perfect scalable offer suite, even if you have the perfect signature offer and gateway offer and all of the things, if your positioning is not showing how you are different, if your positioning is not speaking to what people need to hear right now, what's top of mind for them right now, it is going to continue to be a push. It is going to feel like you're pushing a boulder up a hill to get people to say yes or to get people to express interest. And that is not at all what you want. You want it to be much more of a pull where what you're saying is naturally resonating. People are naturally curious and people are saying yes to your gateway offer because it is a no brainer. And it does seem like, what do I have to lose? This seems like it's going to take me exactly where I want to go. If that is something that you would like to work on together and dig into a little bit more, I have something exciting that you are the very first to hear about. So, this is the first time I'm talking about this publicly. So, way back when, if you've been a listener of the show for a long time, I mentioned our community, the Soul Collective. Well, I made a decision to have the Soul Collective only be available for those in our certification program. I have now decided to open up the Soul Collective for anyone who would like to join. It is by application only because it is for a specific type of business at a specific level, right? It's not for anyone newer to business. So when I decided to take the Soul Collective and turn it into something that I am going to allow people outside the certification program to join, I wanted to make it something that was so super relevant and so super helpful for right now, for what I know businesses are experiencing. And so, what I decided to do is center it around what I call the differentiation code. This is something, again, that I've done internally for a long time. Probably haven't even heard me talk about it much because it is kind of my secret sauce and what I do with people behind the scenes a lot. But the differentiation code to me is a way to stand out and a way to have your services be pull based instead of push based. It's a way for people to more clearly see the value and more clearly see what it's like to work with you and make it more of that no brainer yes to move forward. We talk about things like the offers and the types of offers as I just walked you through in this episode, but we also dive into the biggest differentiators that I think are needed for service based businesses today. So, whether you are the founder of a service based business, whether you are the right hand who works with founders, whether you're a consultant, whether you own an agency, regardless of that, there are three core things that I think are really, really critical going forward. The first is strategic leadership. You must understand how to lead at a strategic level, and you need to understand how to tie things back to a founder's vision. If you work with businesses in any capacity, strategic leadership has always been important, but it is more important than ever before. And that is because, in a lot of ways, of the capabilities and the things that AI is increasingly capable of doing, which takes me to the second piece, which is AI enablement. How do you use AI strategically within your own business as a strategic asset? And how do you help your clients? How do you know where it's valuable versus a distraction? How do you know where to automate versus where you really need the human touch and you will tank client experience if you stick AI in the middle of it? How do you truly understand how to leverage AI in a way that scales a business and moves things forward instead of just adding another tool to manage or another expense to manage? And then finally, the one that ticks and ties really closely to what we talked about in this particular episode is signature positioning. What is your positioning? How do you position what you do? And how do you position what you do to stand out differently so that when someone sees you, when someone sees your work, when someone sees what you do, they do not confuse it for any of the other sea of sameness that's out there where everyone kind of looks the same and sounds the same because they have their friend ChatGPT helping them write all their copy. So my goal is to really help you stay in demand, to be unmistakably distinct in what you do and in the eyes of those who you're speaking to as leads, as prospects, as referrals that come in, and to be able to have the right offer suite, and more importantly, the right positioning around that, as well as the right strategic leadership to be able to deliver it and talk about it and lead it in the way that's needed, and the right enablement around AI. So it's being used in a way that helps you scale your own business and be able to scale the businesses that you work with and support. So if that is something that you are interested in, I just opened up applications. You are welcome to apply to join. We're going to kick off the cohort right at the beginning of November. Head to strategicopsinstitute.com/collective, and you can find all of the details about that. I would love to spend time with you. We do AI implementation labs every single month. I do a live open forum Q&A call on strategic leadership. I have a private audio. If you like this podcast, there's actually a private one where I dig a lot deeper into a lot of topics that you get access to, really focused on strategic leadership and focused on positioning, signature positioning, and really differentiating yourself in what you do, as well as making sure that you are fitting what you do into how the market is buying today and talking about things in a way that are going to resonate with your ideal clients and what they need to hear most today. So hope you got a ton of value out of this episode. I'd love to see your application come through. Check down below in the show notes for all of those links. But again, you could head to strategicopsinstitute.com/collective to learn a little bit more about the Soul Collective and apply to join us for our kickoff publicly in November. And I will see you again next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of Simplify to Scale. If you'd like to take things further, I invite you to join me for my Scale Smarter, Not Harder interactive workshop. Head to strategicopsinstitute.com/scale smarter to get registered. Not only will we dive into what might be keeping you trapped in the day-to-day, but you'll have the opportunity to ask me your questions live. If you got value out of today's episode, I'd love if you'd take a moment and rate and review the show so more businesses can learn to scale more simply and sustainably. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and I'll see you again next week.